Before we begin, I would like to announce that I will be attending the 63rd Annual Convention of the American Society of Dowsers, June 8th through June 11th, being held at the State University of New York Adirondack campus in beautiful Queensbury, New York. The convention will feature dowsing demonstrations and speakers, a metaphysical expo and dowsing bookstore, a wellness center, and much, much more. The Queensbury campus is only 45 minutes north of Albany International Airport, and affordable on-campus housing is available. For more information and to register for this unique event, please visit www.dowsers.org. And now for today's podcast.
Welcome to High Vibes with your host, Bill G. At High Vibes, we're looking into what it means to be a fourth-dimensional being in an ever-changing world. We hope that by listening to our podcast, you can feel a greater sense of peace and connection as we collectively raise our energetic vibration to the next level. And now for today's podcast.
Hello and welcome to High Vibes. I'm your host, Bill G, and today's special guest is Rosanne Romiglio-Ashley. Rosanne is going to be one of the wonderful workshop presenters at the American Society of Dowsers National Convention being held in beautiful Queensbury, New York, this June 6th through June 11th. And information on that is available in the intro to the show. So Rosanne is an award-winning designer, published author, versatile artist, and spiritual channel, not to mention an ordained minister. Rosanne's ancestral heritage melds the Blackfoot, Louistique, and Merrimack descent, as well as French-Canadian and Italian. In tune with her ancestors' guidance and clear vessel for spirit, her ancestors speak their messages through her and her work, opening hearts and reconnecting us to Mother Earth. She writes under the pen name Marie Dion. Her workshop is called Morning Rituals to Return to What's Sacred. And it allows you to greet the day with a morning ritual to connect spirit. Having a personal practice sets the stage for the day and becomes a grounding rod during this extraordinary time of transition. You can hear the real-life examples and various ways that she flows through her rituals as they change with the seasons. In the workshop, you will explore what ritual work is best for you at this point in your path, and what would work easily with your daily routine. And once you're experienced, it then becomes a signpost, a feeling to guide you forward in creating a practice for yourself. So, Rosanne, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill. Very, very, very honored to be here and very excited for this upcoming event.
So, your workshop is on morning routines, and well, before we get into that, you're such I was looking at your websites, plural, before the show,
I know.
and you are so versatile. So can you just give us a quick background about who you are? And you're also responsible for designing the logo for the Dowsers convention, which is so nice. I mean, the first time I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm totally blown away.
So the Dowsers conference, I would call Image, was a complete visual channel that I got in a meditation. And it was about, and then what happened was my ancestors channeled the actual words to go with it, to assist everybody in this transition right now. The energies are really off the charts. It's an unprecedented time. And I would say we as an organization, because I am a member, really, the ancestors were shining a light of direction. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Of where we needed to go. So I I would say if you really wanted to know my entire story, my book is called Journey of a Red Soul. Marie Dion. There's actually a landing tab on my website, mariedion.info, that it says Tribal Crafts. Basically, Tribal Crafts is a nonprofit organization. You can buy one of my original editions of the book on Amazon and all of that, but there's a special edition that I came up with to raise money for Tribal Crafts. They actually support the community at Greengrass in Lakota, Greengrass out in Lakota country. I actually went out there to South Dakota in 2019, and the proceeds from that book assist, and are a portion of them are donated to that organization. So if you really wanted to know my entire story, it's there. But I have been born with the gifts of vision and sight, I guess. Not so much visual sight, but psychic sight. Does that make sense? So, growing up, we always knew we're Indian, but I didn't know how Native I was. And my soul is Native, even more so than my blood in this life, which is, there and strong. My Blackfoot grandfather, who is, let's say I'm his 7th generation granddaughter. What I can say is before the occupation happened on Turtle Island, those of spiritual insight got a prophecy that their children's would lose the way when these pale people came to the lands, and that there was going to be a very bad time for 6 generations. But if they did these very strong prayers, their 7th generation would bring back the ways to their families. Now, I didn't quite understand this. I knew that I could hear him, and I didn't actually know it was my grandfather for many years. Like that evolved as I grew and my gifts grew. Then I could actually discern who was talking to me, whether it was one of my Lakota grandmothers, whether it was my Blackfoot grandfather, whether it was my Italian grandmother. Like I could, as my gifts grew, I could figure out who was speaking, and I could actually see them and hear them in my I don't even know how to say it, in my inner ear. So what he told me, I don't even know if this is in the book, but what he told me was that he did huge ceremonies that I would remember. And I went through an awakening when I turned 30. I lived up in Maine, and I went through an awakening process where they literally guided me back to my culture. And it started with me first getting in touch with my Mi'kmaq family, my Wolastoqey, which is actually Maliseet. So my Pepe's family was Algonquin, Maliseet, Wolastoqey, which is Wolastoqey is the traditional word. Maliseet was a derogatory word given to us. So we're trying to reclaim our actual, name. But my ceremonies were held in Mi'kmaq country, and I was brought there first. And I think what was very interesting is my Blackfoot chief from Alberta would fly out for ceremonies. And so both of my cultures would be together in that particular ceremony that I would go to. And this is how I was introduced, called back to who I was in small increments. Like first I met some Mi'kmaq people at a powwow in Maine, and then we became friends. And then I designed one of the guys was part of a native rock band called Eagle Feather in Canada. and I designed their CD. Like, so this is how my design works. Here I was, corporate Italian designer, creative director for a huge award-winning design firm. I was being flown out we were just talking about this. I was being flown out to do art direction for photo shoots and all this, very high-end stuff. And there was always this undercurrent of really who I was as an Indigenous person, not even knowing how deeply Indigenous I was. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So my skin, I was also born into it. My Blackfoot grandfather said to me one day, so why did I grow up in an Italian family? And he literally said to me, because the trauma to Native people all over, he goes, it was the closest loving atmosphere to who we were when we were healed. And he said, so the Italians is what you got. And he also said that, my skin is lighter. It's, because I'm also Italian, I got the darker skin, but it's also because I'm Native. And he said, you needed to be born as a bridge. So you needed to be able to walk in both worlds. And if I had come in very dark and very Native looking, I would not have had the opportunities, unfortunately, that I had, is what he told me. I came back and I am here to heal my lineage and to heal the trauma that happened to my people. And I just finished writing my second book, which is actually called Return to What's Sacred. And it talks about, in 2019, I was called out west by my ancestors. First, I was invited by Tribal Crafts, which was my opening. But I had been on a 10-year journey to return a sacred object that I never knew how I was going to get out to South Dakota. And my ancestors just started opening the doors. Went out with Tribal Crafts. I met a woman who I ended up staying with in Custer. I ended up in the Black Hills. We actually put that sacred object to rest. And then I traveled totally alone with very little direction up to Alberta, to my homeland, to participate in ceremonies with my Blackfoot chief and his wife. It took all the courage that I could muster, even driving in states alone that I've never been. And I have courage. Courage is one of my born gifts. But let me tell you, driving in the middle of the night through Montana and not having the GPS work and not knowing where I'm going and totally trusting spirit to get me there had me a little unnerved, right? I had to say, I had to surrender. There was no choice in the matter. And this whole journey is what I talk about in my next book, because it was so miraculous. I mean, to the point where my chief and his wife were doing preparatory ceremonies on the US side of the border, where I was supposed to cross to go into Alberta. And they said, oh, well, meet us here in this town at this time. And, everybody's on Indian time, so time is always a variant. But I ended up, leaving Montana, driving through the state, driving through these parks. When you see 60 miles on the East Coast, it's a straight shot. When there's 60 miles on a map in that area, you have to take into account that you're going up and down ravines and mountains, and it might take not an hour, but 7. There was quite I was late getting to my Airbnb one night in the middle of the night, driving to this farm, didn't know how I was going to get there, like scared to death. Like, I mean, just because I have gifts doesn't mean I don't have emotions and I'm not human, and they took me through my paces. So this book is, coming together, and it's quite interesting. But I was supposed to meet them, and they were going to drive me to the reserve, because they're not on the maps. Like, it's not like out here. You can't just punch it into your GPS and end up there. So I couldn't get a hold of her when I left because they were already in preparatory ceremonies. And so I thought I remembered what town it was, like drove in that direction, didn't realize I wasn't going to have any cell service. And about an hour before, I think it was the town of Bap is where I was going. An hour before I got to the town, I saw a pull off that said cell service, rest area. And I go, and I pull in and I took my phone out and tried to call my chief's wife. And I said a little prayer and she actually answered. And I said, oh, thank goodness. I'm here. I'll meet you in BAP in an hour. That's it. She goes, oh, honey, I didn't feel good. We headed home. You need to cross the border. You need to go to this town and I'll send my daughter to come get you. I mean, it was like totally a trust fall the whole trip.
Wow.
And what I'll tell you is when I actually got up there, it was miraculous. So many things happened. But my grandfather, when I was in ceremonies there, my grandfather said, welcome home. You're the first one in our family to step foot on our land in 7 generations. And I'm choking up. It was extremely emotional. And he said it was because of the ceremonies that he did that called me back home. That's how powerful our ceremonies are. So the reason I tell that story is everybody comes from a different culture. Everybody has a history. And the old ones, I'm going to say the old ones, are calling us all back to what is natural to us, to what is our true nature and what is an honest way of living. And as humans, we are evolving to a different level of understanding energetically. And they on the other side, they are very excited about this time for us. And if we can tap into that even a little bit and create a little bit of a ritual for ourselves based in our own cultures. I'm not going to teach anybody how to be native. If you're not native, there's you could be Celtic, you could be Druid, even the Italians had like their like little rituals that they would do. Like you have your own culture, and that is where your power is. You have to come in, you have to find that place inside yourself. And this is going to be, it's really a little bit of a treasure hunt to find the ritual for yourself that you're going to be able to fit into your day and actually do, that's going to ground you to this time that we're in. Because if we do not stay grounded right now, there is going to be more chaos and confusion is going to, get you swept up in the tornado of it.
Oh, absolutely. This is something we talk about a lot on the show, about how we are in this period of transition where we are breaking away from the trappings of a popular culture or a materialistic culture, moving more towards a spiritual culture or a more connected culture. And so while that's happening, whether you want it to or not, whether you're going to accept it or not, it's happening. It's just happening. The world's going through a transition. So you can either fight against it or you can go with the flow and learn how to adapt it into your daily life. So that way you can be connected while the connection is happening. You can thrive with it or you can fight against it. And if you fight against it, things aren't going to work out so great for you, because
not everybody's going. If you're going to try to, not everybody's going forward.
Right. And it's going to be very challenging for those people who choose to hold on to their modern culture. And it's going to be less challenging for people who are accepting this expansion as it's happening. So that way they can be more in tune with it.
Yeah. It was funny. I listened to a grandmother's, I caught something from a grandmother, a native grandmother on, I think, Instagram last night. And it was very poignant to me. because people, the colonized world doesn't understand when we say land back. First of all, they don't understand missing and murdered women. They don't realize that in the Native culture, in all of, especially United States and Canada, if there's a missing and murdered woman, 80%, if not 85%, are Native. They disappear and they're never investigated. Hardly. Like if a white girl goes missing, they're on it. She's all over the news.
Right.
They're like, everybody's looking for her. If it's a Native woman or someone on the res,
they could care less.
They could care less. So this is what this movement is about. So if everybody sees so I'm just explaining all the red hands on women's faces. This is us standing up for our sisters that didn't have a voice. That's a side note. The land back movement. So I heard this grandmother, and I just resonated so strongly. She said, "We are of the land. We are of this land, and so we are never homeless. We are home. We might be houseless for a periodic time if we're going through a time that's difficult, but we are never homeless because the land is our home, and we are of her. We are of the earth." And so in my rituals, I have 2 medicine wheels. I have one that's private for my personal use, and I have one that's public, and I have people that come here if they're vetted by spirit. Let me put it that way. Spirit allows some people to come here and come into my stone circle, which is actually an ancient circle. It's not just Native. That one is actually, I think, comes from like a very old time, even pre-Druid. And I have a lot of people cross-cultural that come to that, and the energy in that circle really draws them in. The connection to the earth in a stone circle is very intense and strong, and it's not just Native. So this is like one of the practices that I want to share. I don't really call myself a teacher. I call myself more like a mentor. My ancestors want me to teach, and I'm like, I teach by showing. I teach by doing. People's choices are their choices, and if they can come and listen to a lecture by me all day long and then go home and just do their own, colonized ways again, So I think I would find disappointment if I called myself a teacher and then people didn't actually learn. But if I call myself a mentor and show them a way, and if their choices, whether to reach down and reach for their power or not, that way I get to be a little more trusting and hands off with spirit. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So let's talk a bit about the workshop itself. So yes, you're being a mentor, a guide. Mm-hmm. So is it from what I'm gathering from everything you've said so far, this is more of a journey of self-discovery rather than this is, these are the tools that you use.
Exactly.
And this is what you say to the 4 corners and whatever. It's more of a, okay, we're going to connect now to who you are and what your ancestral lineage is. So that way you can have a deeper personal connection to whatever that morning ritual is. Am I right on that?
You're exactly right. What I've always told all my grandchildren and my nieces and my nephew is that Creator put you here, and there is a gift inside of you that nobody can tell you what it is. They can't tell you where it is, but it's the one thing that makes you unique as a human being on this planet at this time. And there's no other person that is carrying this gift for God. Just you. And it's like an interior treasure map. Like you are the only one that can find that treasure. Nobody can say, "Oh, go look, it's behind your ear," like, or you're really good at this, go do this. No. Because you are a unique individual. You've had a unique set of past lives at different ages. You've been different genders, you've been different cultures. you are so unique, and this is what makes every human being precious, that the gift that you've been given is something that is innate and natural to you. And it's so natural to you that sometimes you can't even find it because it's right there in front of your nose. So what I will do in the workshop, or what I will attempt to do, is let you experience the peace that descends when you're in true place of ritual, so that you have a guidepost to find that for yourself. Like, it's a feeling. What people say, well, what does it feel like? I said, it feels like calm and peace. It's a place of peace and knowing and love. Really, like, people don't equate calmness, peace with love. Like that's foreign to me. Of course, they all equal and mean the same. And the deeper peace you feel, the deeper love you feel from Creator. That's your like little light to go by in the darkness. Like, hello, you know. So if I can, at the very, very least, have people get to that place where they feel it, they'll know what they're looking for in the little rituals that they develop for themselves. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. This is good. It sounds very, very exciting. So if you want to sign up for the workshop, you need to first attend the convention, and you go to dowsers.org to go to, there's going to be a link right on the splash page that will get you to sign up for the convention. Now, housing is already closed, so you can't live on campus with us, but there's plenty of hotels in the area. And even if you just wanted to come for the day, we are offering day passes for you. So you can come in to the day that Rosanne is teaching her workshop. You can get your day pass, you can then sign up for the workshop and then attend the convention that way. And so it's very accessible for anybody who happens to be in the area, even if you're only coming for the day, or if you're coming for the entire convention. That would be wonderful for you to do that.
I don't know if you know this, Bill, that if for the entire convention, I've been asked to do opening and closing ceremonies as well.
Excellent, excellent. So the opening ceremony is on Thursday evening, and the closing ceremony is on Sunday, right when we're ending, right around noon, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Excellent. Oh,
yeah, and don't forget to mention there is the free workshop. That when you sign up for the convention, you're allowed to go to all these free workshops, so you don't have to just pay for the workshop itself.
Yes, well, the workshop, yes, the free workshops are 1 hour, basically 1 hour talks, which are for a lot of the speakers who are doing workshops, it's just a more condensed version of what their workshop is, or it could be something completely different. So yeah, it's very exciting. If you've never been to one of these things before, it's a very unique experience. I've been going to the Dowsers convention for 4 years now, and this will be my 5th year as a speaker. So I'm really very, very stoked about being there and being a part of the behind the scenes as well. It's been a very exciting, rewarding experience.
Yeah, and I'm excited for the organization, because this logo and the image that's been brought as a gift to them from Spirit, is what I'm going to say that logo was, is a transformational point. And it's about bringing like-minded people together, and that the light that's going to be built with this is so strong that I just feel so much interior excitement about this. There's this unknown, like, a little surprise for the organization that's like on the horizon. Of transition, right?
Yes. The whole organization is in a transition state right now, which is, I mean, not to get off on a tangent on that, but being a member of the board of directors for the last 10 months or so, it's been quite an adventure of a lot of changes happening in a very short period of time. And it's exciting. It's scary, but it's also very, very exciting to understand. And if you're interested and you want to become a member, You can do that on the website as well. And we're having our annual members meeting on Wednesday night of the convention too. So you can come to the event to get an idea of where we were and where we are planning on taking the organization going forward. Again, a lot of the stuff is still in the works. It's definitely a work in progress. We've done a lot of pivoting, a lot of ideas. Hey, let's do this, and then we get into it and we're like, maybe not. Let's pivot to something else. But it's
really a mirror for the world, though. It's not just your organization. It's the old way of doing things is not sustainable and is no longer being supported by the energies.
Absolutely.
So it has to go away. There is no, if you're going to survive as a company, even I'm running into this with my corporate clients and companies that are very, if they are the old way, patriarchal way, me over you, you do what I say, their organization is not going to make it through these transition times. They have to change, and they have to see, they have to be in service to their people,
right,
from a place of heart, transparency, honesty. Like, I'm talking to my clients in my design firm about spirit stuff sometimes the channel comes through and I'm like, okay, whether you believe in this or not, this is where I see you 5 years out, and this is where it's coming from. It's not coming from me. So, this is happening even for big companies.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And you see that just in the news right now. You're seeing how many companies are now going out of business because they absolutely refuse to change their model or adapt their model to whatever is happening now, or they had such rigorous or structures in place that it just couldn't. There's so many companies closed because of COVID, but they're blaming it on COVID. But those companies were on their way out before COVID. That was just the nail in the coffin.
The spirits call it the dismantling, and so you're going to see it on a bigger and bigger scale, a huge scale. Like, our entire country is about to go through a dismantling and a rebuild. Not to scare anybody, because we have to build the new building on a solid foundation, not the crumbling one. It's just the way it is.
So if people want to get in touch with you or just find your books or whatever, let's just do a quick rundown of everywhere you are. I mean, you're a lot of places, but where if somebody wanted to get the quick synopsis of who you are, or just getting access to the books that you've written, where they go.
Okay, so as a web designer, I have too many websites, and I apologize to the outer world. I will be pulling them all together in one site, but take care of my clients first. So what I would say is my primary website will be 4 Winds, 1 Breath. And the reason my ancestors gave that name to me, because I do 4 different things: 1 breath, 1 person. It's also indicative of our 4 directions, our ceremonies. So the website is the number 4 Winds, WINDS, the number 1 breath, BREATH.com. And you can contact me through that contact page. My book is totally separate. Marie Dion was actually my great-great-grandmother's name, my great-great-great-grandmother's name. And there's a whole story behind that. So Marie Dion, DION, .info will take you to that website. And again, I would go to the Tribal Crafts tab, the landing page that'll take you to the special edition, and you can purchase the book there. And for the design, cleanclearcreative.com. If you want to see the more professional edge of me, you can go there. There you go.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much for talking to us today. Looking so forward to actually meeting you in person at the conference. And thank you, everybody out there, for listening. We hope to see you at the conference, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm so honored.
Thank you for listening. For more information about Bill and Nina G, please go to www.vitalbioenergetics.com. See you next time.